let me help you be creative in things that we can get done. So in 2 weeks, when your house payments due, your car payments due, and the 9,000 other things that people are asking for money, because guess what never changes?
Yep.
Any of those things collectively.
Bill still comes.
They still come. And so we try to help them responsibly. It's like, okay, well, let's call all the construction companies that the ground is frozen and say, hey, could we get your vehicles in right now when they're not generating you any revenue and get those tuned up? Mm-hmm. We've got a bunch of recalls. We can come to you and perform those. And then salespeople, we get to do tons of training to make sure that they're up to date with all the training with the manufacturer. We do walk-around competitions. It's time to stop cutting with a chainsaw and stop and sharpen the chain so when it's ready for action, because they'll forget one side of the sword and then hit you with the other side. Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business while working through adversity and pouring back into our community that keeps our doors open every single day. We're your hosts, Shelby, Matt, and Taylor, and we'll be bringing you real, relevant local business advice, maybe some automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business or buying a car, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us here locally. Welcome back to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis brothers. We're your hosts, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, bringing you what we think's relevant, what's going on in the industry, what we're trudging through, and what's going on. So episode 74, we're talking about 80 years in the business, past, present, future, and what we're dealing with today. The good, bad, and the ugly, and unpacking whatever we can to find to say, hey, here's behind the curtain, what's going on. So we're going to fully break that down. This episode, we'll talk about where Lewis Automotive started, how it's lasted this long, the bumps and the hurdles along the way, and what the heck with this snow, right? Is Arkansas equipped to handle snow? And what do you do as a business when weather comes, and how do you handle that, right?
Yeah, that's going to be fun to unpack. I think that's just one of the great examples of, you don't get to choose what comes at you. You get to choose how you respond to one, pack that, and many more. A lot of those circumstances have happened over the past 80 years.
Yeah.
For sure. Hey, but before we do that, let's talk about last week. Hey, we had a special guest in the studio last week, Mr. Mike Rush of Rush Running, a local business entrepreneur here. He's got locations here in Fayetteville and then up in Bentonville. If you didn't hear that episode, go back and check it out. Mike brings a lot of high energy. We talk about some business practices. We also talk about goals and how making people a better version of themselves and how that bleeds over into your family and to leading your business as well.
Absolutely. Hey, what's in the garage today? I love this because it's the best value of the off-road segment that you can possibly get into.
Okay.
If you're looking at TRX luxury, you're looking at a Bronco Raptor, you're looking at a Tundra TRD Pro, you're looking at Tacoma TRD Pro, whatever it would be in the segment, this beats them all for value perceived. I'm talking about the Ranger Raptor. And it has the 3-liter turbo motor. It is over 400 horsepower, and it is Baja ready from the get-go, sub $60,000. Wow. Has Fox suspension, BFG tires, B-lock wheels, and all the things that people have come to love about Raptor over the years, but it's saving you $25,000 off the next closest Raptor vehicle. So, huge value of that. I have 5 on the ground to choose from right now. Whoa. The ultimate different colors, but big value in the Ranger Raptor.
No doubt. That's a fun one that gets all the off-road stuff. It's maybe, I don't know that it's entry. Entry is not the proper way, but it's how you get into the off-road segment. So that's something that we've loved, that they get to take all the millions or billions that they've spent in their industry research and then put it in that package. So full-size, mid-size truck, 5-passenger, 400 horsepower. So check it out. All right, so unpacking this, how Lewis Automotive Group became 80, right? So unpacking since 1946.
That's right. And, when you look at it, and if we had our great-grandfather in the room here with us and we were talking to him about that, he was naturally a banker. But before our family got into banking and into investments, they were entrepreneurs. Right off the square there where the Bank of Fayetteville is right now, that was Lewis Brothers Hardware. And that was back in the 1880s. And that was back when you went to your hardware store, not just for nuts and bolts and a specialty tool, but, when they came out with a washer dryer, they had it there, and they had furniture, and you did your Christmas shopping. It was the all-in-one place back then.
I love a good hardware store. I mean, shout out local Ace Hardware,
Oh, yeah.
right? Whether that be the local Ace Hardware in Prairie Grove or the one in Fayetteville, I don't know. It's just it's tangible stuff. You're just walking around looking for something you need,
What I like about that is, as you say it, is they were solution-based of finding whatever you needed to fix your issue. We talk about that still today in our business. So before the automotive, we were entrepreneurs still in this area since the 1880s. Then our great-grandfather, who is known as Buck, he bought into the Ford dealership right there on the square as an investment because he was a banker. Had a successful career in banking, but bought into the Ford business. What they said we could fit 7, 8, 9 cars on a good day there.
7 cars. It was a couple stories. The basement was the service department. The roof is the break room. It was Absher Bryant Ford back then. He bought in 50%. I think bought the Bryant portion of that.
Okay.
And then a few years later bought out the remaining portion. But pretty small operation, just off the square. It's trying to be as close to the action as possible, right? So I was just kind of on the east side of the square, headed towards 71 Business, and just saw an opportunity.
Some of y'all have heard this before, but in real estate, it comes down, what do they say? Location, location, location. Oh, yeah. And when you think about that, it was on the square because of location.
Yeah.
It was around there. When our grandfather and his brother, Tom and Herb, moved it to 71 back in 69, it was because of location. The 71 had been built. That was the traveled road, so you could get more traffic, more eyeballs on a daily basis. That was location.
Yep.
When you go back a couple years ago, when we moved, to our new campus that we're at right now, that's on 49, that's because of location. So over a long time, it's still based upon location and how do you position your business to not only be successful today, but to be successful for the future.
So thinking about this, what business looked like decades ago, there's 80 years, and we didn't get to experience a lot of those, right? We've heard stories about some of them. Probably there's some that we'll never hear about. The early 2000s is really as just understanding what was going on, right? You can see cars are for sale and da-da-da. But to get behind the scenes, what kind of challenges do you think that they faced long ago that maybe are still the same challenges? From crazy recessions, of all the things of wars and, the stock availability and what's something from back then that probably something we still face?
Well, you started to hit on it there, and I think 100% is inventory. They still dealt with commodity restraints, so they couldn't build certain vehicles. They still dealt with a factory shutdown, whether it be because of union or because of a fire or because of a tooling issue. So they still dealt with inventory. They still dealt with transportation logistics.
Oh, yeah.
Now there were some that looks a little bit different, but not a whole lot different. When you think about it, they still use trains and trucks. And there's still some time that you have to figure out how to get the last mile, they call it in transportation. So inventory, transportation, I think financing is still there, where you're trying to get the funds either to run the business, from business capital, operational, or from a consumer on how do they get the money to buy the vehicle.
Yeah.
Now all of those communications with software and tracking and lean production, all of that has progressed. But the basics of those three, I still feel we still deal with those today.
I think the majority of them, yes, right? And one that you would agree but didn't point out there is people, right? People of employees, right? Having the right people, continue to keep them motivated, pointing in the right direction, farming in the correct area, and how to have the right amount of people and the right people. So I don't think that it's changed a whole lot in the base core. It's kind of just the channels that it delivers and communicates through is what's changed. But, think 2007, 2008, when there was a lot of businesses that folded up. And that surely wasn't the first time Lewis Automotive had been through something like that. I remember Dad talking about when they were back on the square. He was super young back then. Talked about inventory shortages. Think if you could hold 6 or 7 cars and you had a good weekend, then you didn't have many cars at all to sell, right? So how does it look like you're in business if you sold 2 or 3 or 4, right? And he said, when things got tough, like back then, I'm sure things got super tough, right? It was just you didn't have as many facets to pour in, to say, hey, this isn't going well, but these are going well, right? To help that sustainability. He said, I don't care if we have to work on lawnmowers or sell lawnmowers. And there was a time when they were servicing lawnmowers at the original dealership, because they had people that knew how to work on engines, right? And they had relationship with customers in the community. And they said, hey, we'll fix and repair your lawnmowers, because they knew people had lawnmowers and there was a need to keep those running. And so that's a sustainability of there's a need, we have the ability, and let's solve that problem.
I think, and we see that, it really makes you think about that during a storm, like we're talking about the snow. And because some things, snow shuts completely down. Like, for example, outdoor construction.
Yeah.
And as strong-willed and minded as we are, we've been there before where you try to do something and you end up making more damage. When the ground's covered in snow, you get out there and start trying to dig dirt, you're just going to make a mess.
Yeah, so let's break that down. Like, we just had Snowmageddon. It was not near the 99 feet of snow that they predicted, right? And some days I wish I could have the forgiveness of a weatherman, right? They're bringing attention to it. I don't blame them for a second, right? They got a captive audience. I think people say that they're connected to grocery stores somehow, that they get a kickback of milk and bread. But so... snowstorm's coming. That you're not going to have all the people driving in to buy your cars or naturally driving in to service your vehicle. But in our business, we have a monthly goal, our forecast. We break that down per day, per person. And oftentimes in business, I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes. It's different per each department, but generally it's not until you get to about 90% of a month where you start generating positive revenue. The cost of people, the cost of rent, and the cost of all your technology, it's until you get to that 90%. Like, you have to put up 90% revenue to start generating positive income. So each day that's taken away, it makes it difficult to be able to continue to have all your people. But you already have those people. You've already guaranteed some pay in those things. So what does a snow day look like, and what do you do with that?
Well, I'm sitting there calculating in my mind right now, you're 90%, and I do agree with that. So when you think about that from a month, if you just think about 4 weeks in a month, well, then we get into the last week of the month, that's 75%. We're not even still there. And then all of a sudden a snowstorm works to shut you down.
Yeah.
And you're not even in the positive yet.
So you have to think about it. Like, when we do that forecast, we break down selling days. So generally you're going to get 26-ish selling days. And then working days. That's our parts and service. We're not counting a Saturday. We have a crew on Saturday, but it's not a heavy generating. So generally you're going to have 20 to 22 working days. So you take that forecast, huge number, because like our service teams have anywhere from 75 to 100 employees. Huge costs there. And huge, like, over the top of, like, we have a responsibility to help them to be able to provide for the family. Without work and without customers, that's hard to do. So if you take 22 in the month of January working days, and then you have a snow day on a Friday, and the problem is the built-up anticipation, like, people couldn't get anything done last week anyways, right? So then you say, okay, Friday, everyone's super concerned, wanting to leave, not focused, and then a Saturday, and then a Monday, and then a Tuesday. And you can't control any of that, like if school's canceled or if people are without power. So now you've just gone to 19 days or 18 so that your divider gets smaller and smaller.
I think one of the things that we've adapted to, and since we're talking about the snow and it's fresh on everybody's mind, if you rewind the tape a few years ago, We just said, go back to work, go back to work, go back to work.
Yeah.
And one of the things we did this year is we actually acknowledged what was on everybody's mind.
Yeah.
Which that's not us naturally. We're like, I don't care what you hit me with today. I'm going to be good, and I'm going to devote the energy needed towards that when it happens.
You have to realize that's you, right?
It
There's
is.
270 other people that, yeah, cool, but I'm worried. When's this canceled?
So one of the things we did starting talking Thursday and then Friday is in all of our meetings, we just hit it on the head. We said, we realize this is coming. We realize that everybody's in a little bit of like, what do I do? When is it coming? And we tried to instill as much as possible confidence in them of if the storm moved in earlier Friday, we would make adjustments to get everybody home safe.
Yeah.
But it's our job to try to help you also make a paycheck. I need you to have confidence and faith in us as a management team that if we see that something changes and it's earlier, we'll make the call and we'll shut down in time for you to get home safe with your family.
It's super tricky because it's a dual-edged sword. Mm-hmm. So if you don't address it like you just talked about, they say you're selfish and you're making us stay here. And, people go in one far spectrum, and it's okay because they're totally fear-mongering across the news and everything. Like, please just turn that stuff off, right?
Yeah.
You'll know when something is needed. But let's say you watch the news and you listen to everything. They're like, this is so stupid. Why are you making us be here? It's unsafe, and not everyone has the ability to drive or has the lack of, fear. And so you have to keep that in mind. But what will happen is they will completely forget that. So when their commission or their draw check happens a week or two later, they'll look at you directly and say, what happened to all my money?
Uh-huh.
And so that's where you say, I want to keep you super safe.
Yeah.
You got to know when to say when.
Sure.
Right? But then you get to help them of, hey, I know there's not people just crawling across the parking lot to buy cars. I know there's not tons of people coming into the service drive. Let me help you be creative and things that we can get done. So in 2 weeks, when your house payments due, your car payments due, and the 9,000 other things that people are asking for money, because guess what never changes?
Yep.
Any of those things collectively.
Bill still comes.
They still come. And so we try to help them responsibly. It's like, okay, well, let's call all the construction companies that the ground is frozen and say, hey, could we get your vehicles in right now when they're not generating you any revenue and get those tuned up? Mm-hmm. We've got a bunch of recalls. We can come to you and perform those. And then salespeople, we get to do tons of training to make sure that they're up to date with all the training with the manufacturer. We do walk-around competitions. It's time to stop cutting with a chainsaw and stop and sharpen the chain so when it's ready for action, because they'll forget one side of the sword and then hit you with the other side. And you're like, well, I tried to help you here. So that is so tough as a business owner to say, when do you say when? And if you say the time is now that we are still going to be here, how do you help? You can't just say go to work, sell cars, or go to work, go work on cars. When you have to help be creative of let's make something out of something here.
Yeah.
A good leader will help walk an employee through that. It's kind of like the first time you go to the gym and you go work on bench press or push-ups or whatever, air squats, and then you go look in the mirror afterwards and you're like, I really can't see a difference.
Yeah.
And then maybe day 2, maybe even month 2. But 6 months down the road, a year down the road, the definition changes. Your body composition changes. It didn't change from the day before. It changed from all that work.
And someone didn't just say, hey, go to the gym and go work out.
That's
you can't just tell your team, hey, go to work. You have to define, say, hey, I need you to do 3 sets of 12 at this percentage of your max.
Yep.
And do this and this and this. So you have to be so surgical in that direction to say, hey, team, today I need you to work on this, this, and this because I realize this.
Well, and then also you're putting in their mind of like, and you have to do this consistently day after day after day before. So you have to recalibrate their expectations.
Yeah.
So how does that transfer over to the snow when nobody's on the lot? We're still making phone calls.
Because people are home
because they're easy to connect. So we're making phone calls. Our connection rate's up. We're sending thank you emails. We're just touching base with people. We're getting up to date on certification. Because you know what'll happen? We're all procrastinators.
Yeah.
And what'll happen is we'll look up and there's 2 days left in the month and we wouldn't have hit manufacturer certifications for training in sales or parts or this or that. And everybody's like, oh, crap, we got to do that. It's connected to all these incentives or their spends.
And now
or
their
their
snow's
spiffs.
melting and we need to sell stuff.
And we need to sell stuff at work. And then the employee's like, what do you want me to do? You want me to sell the car? You want me to do this? So a good leader explains that and puts it in their mind because naturally they're thinking about exactly what you're talking about, Shelby, of why am I here? It's not safe. Nobody's buying a car. Nobody's bringing their car into work. There is always something productive to be done so it doesn't steal from your opportunity in the future.
Yeah, and that's the same thing as your gym analogy. So when you're not in the gym, when the ability is not to be here in your business working on it, work on the other portion is say, hey, maybe we should work on your eating.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so maybe you're not working on selling because the people aren't there, but let's work on your connection and let's work on your training. So when it is time and the sun is shining and everyone is out, then your chain is sharpened, you're laser focused, all your to-dos are caught up with. And then here's the philosophy that we always say, because we're generally the minority in being open. And it's like, man, you guys are so irresponsible. It's like, no, we take responsibility for as much as we can.
Yes.
Because we have this responsibility. We're not going to lay people off because of a recession, because of a COVID. We're going to help them try to provide because that's a commitment we gave to them and hopefully they gave to us. But it's like if we can have those, like yesterday, there was over 1,600 completed tasks and phone calls by the team. So then when Wednesday or Thursday, when it thaws out, everyone else is just going to be showing up to work, and they'll be 1,600 per day behind.
We've already been in the gym and done 50 reps a day.
Yeah. Yeah, so think about that. They're not showing up like, okay, let's get warmed up, let's get some phone calls. And
We're already in the second half.
We're already moving, right? And then that's our responsibility, not to say, hey, we're the best, to say, Matt, I hired you, and I told you I would fully commit to make sure you could provide for your family, you could pay your bills, and you could be able to do what you need to do with little Johnny and your entire family. And I'm going to do my best, come hell or high water, to take care of that, right? So...
But I think you got to show too, and a couple of the things we did, call it Saturday and Monday, is people listen to you when you say that in a meeting, but then they want proof that you got their back. So on Saturday, we didn't open till 10.
Yeah.
Okay. We closed at 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So we had enough time for the sun to come out. Well, the sun wasn't out Saturday, but then safely to make it.
Yep.
And then before the sun went down.
Yep.
Monday, even though a bunch of it had been cleared, we said, let's give a couple hours. We know you're juggling around where your kids are going to go for the day and this and that. So that couple hours shows proof of you're not just saying, hey, it stays rigid as it is. We're making some adjustments.
So to wrap this into Snowmageddon or whatever they call it, versus our 80 years in business, is being solution-based in what's going on. So years and years and years ago, and we've told this story before, but lemons to lemonade.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Lemons to lemonade. So long ago when we had the boat store, this was probably late 90s, early 2001 or 2, boats in January, for whatever dang reason, maybe because people aren't doing what they're doing, and when it's boating season, they want you to be in water. We went to a Missouri boat show and hauled all of our inventory. Like, think about that. You have to have a truck and a trailer for each boat. Set up in this entire convention center, 20 or 30 plus boats, had the whole sales team up there, everything ready to go. Well, come to find out somewhere along the way, the license for us to be able to sell in Missouri versus Arkansas, they said, you can't be here, and you can be here, but you can't sell a thing.
Yeah.
Right? So the expense was all there, and this was when Dad, too, was still heavily involved. And so then we had to haul them all back, right?
We did. So that was our grandfather, Tom, and I can just remember, we had gotten hotel rooms for all the salespeople, all the sales managers, and I can remember because it was either 98 or 99, because I was just barely 16, hauling boats back and forth. So then we haul them back. Okay, we haul them back.
So haul them back and say, everybody go home?
Nope. He rallied up. We had a sales meeting on the showroom, and I can remember these brown paper bags.
It's cold outside.
We're inside, and he says, take one and pass it around. and then this whole jar of these sugar cubes. Then he passes around. So everybody has a lemon in their hand, and they got a couple cubes of sugar in their hand. And that's what he's talking about. He said, hey, we've been dealt with lemons here. Okay, we've been dealt with an issue that's out of our control. We took all the energy, took them up there, brought them back. We have these lemons. And lemons by themselves are very sour. Nobody really, I mean, my kids every once in a while to do it, but nobody just eats lemons. But he said when you take a situation and you add these sugar cubes to it, it becomes a world-renowned drink lemonade that everybody enjoys. Oh, yeah. He said, so in this situation, we have to take these sugar cubes, add them to the current lemons that we're already dealt with. We can't change that. We can only change how we react to it. And we have lemonade. We made our own sell. We shifted all the advertising and marketing internally and ended up with a productive sell out of it in-house.
So that's taking a tough situation and making something. Instead of just folding up like, hey, we lost, we missed, we completely messed up or whatever it may be, and just said, we'll try again on Monday. Mm-hmm. Like that was opportunity. So that's, they say, hey, must be nice, right? 80 years in the business, must be nice. Like, it is really nice that we've had this opportunity to work extremely hard in each situation, right? So you don't get to see in the trenches that often. That's why we're fully breaking this down of like, okay, like that's so stupid. Why are you guys working? It's like, because like there's so much expense and there's so many people that you're counting on this. And in that scenario and in a million other scenarios, it's like, okay, I'm going to sit in my office. I'm going to come up with a game plan. We're going to talk about it. And then we're going to help them surgically dive in to explode this thing and to create opportunity. And because there's always something. They'll sit around scrolling TikTok all day if you let them. Like if you're up there just worried about something. But you got to get out there and there's so much that can be done.
Who plowed the snow?
We did. Okay. And that's our stupid hard knocks. Like, let me show you how to do it. But this started long ago. I think it's your fault.
Probably.
We moved to Michigan and hadn't seen much snow and hadn't been able to plow snow. And our plowing game.
Do you remember what it started with?
Yeah, our side-by-side.
No, it started with Dad's tool.
No, it started with Dad's tractor with the box blade.
Yeah. I remember that because we spent more money than we would have spent if we had hired somebody on repairing that tractor before we took it back home.
I think go ahead.
No, somebody said yesterday, laughed about this, and they're like, God, I mean, it makes it nice with y'all having all the equipment. Y'all got it already. And I said, it's been a long time.
Must be nice. Once again, they say, must be nice, right, to have this. Must be nice to have this. Like, no, we started with like 12 beanies on and gloves and a two-wheel drive tractor. That's why everything was bent, because you had to get going so fast to push the snow backwards in a box blade.
And the only way you could turn was you disconnect so you could use cutting brakes on either side.
It was just one of those things that like, okay, you had to make the call if you were open or closed because it was, and it's like, I'm not going to call and be like, hey, it's pretty cold, let's stay home. And so everyone gets shoved. So we've then prepared to go north to get good shovels. And I'm talking about go to Dollar General or Walmart. Get the good shovels.
They cut.
And then we've gone through at least this weekend 12,000 pounds of salt. Now we've used salt for animals. We've used salt for your water purification system.
Pretty salty.
Very salty. We use rock salt. I haven't found the beet juice yet, but and it's one of those hard knocks things of lead by example. So when Matt was like, "Hey, let's open at 10," that didn't change the time to start plowing. Like, let's meet at 5. Let's meet at 6. And so you bring about 3 changes of clothes because you're still gonna need to go to the gym. That's not an excuse not to go to the gym. You're just going to have to move that a little bit.
You got to work.
Then you're going to have to plow, and then you got to change into your work clothes to be able to plow the lot. And it's funny because a guy texted me this morning who showed up to work. Today was his first day back, and I get it, right?
Yeah.
And he said, hey, does your parking lot look like this? And it was an ice skating rink. And I sent him a picture, said, no, mine's dry as can be. You could lay a sheet of paper on the ground, and it wouldn't get wet, and it wouldn't be cold. Because that's 12,000 pounds of salt and all the plowing. But it's gotten so strategic of where we put our snow to where it melts so that it doesn't melt across the parking lot. But that's evolved of years and years and years just so that, okay, if we could control it, We couldn't control the snow, but we could control what we did with it.
All right, I got to unpack some stuff right there. Okay, because there's so many business things, and you're like, Matt, okay, come on, it's snow. All right, there's so many business things there. Is one, we figured out a solution. Yeah, we're a little stubborn, but just so everybody knows, a car dealership is the last on the priority list if you try to hire to get it plowed.
Oh, yeah.
Because they want to do open parking lots, banks, grocery stores, Lowe's.
They're easier to plow.
They're easy. This is a very difficult place to plow because if a machine hits one of the vehicles, the machine's winning.
Yeah.
Okay, and you got to go in and out. So because of our non-patience to wait until the end of the day for somebody else to plow.
And even if they did, because when we first came in, there were people that did it.
Yes.
Remember
yes.
the one-armed cowboy that
Oh,
Robert
yeah.
Joe had? They had 25 other places to do.
Boom, 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 and it
And
was
so then
done.
you're like, oh my gosh, I waited this long,
Yeah,
and I
that's
got
what I
this
got.
quality of job.
So we feel like as responsibility to provide that. And we know that we might not, even though we sold cars yesterday, we sold cars Saturday, we worked on cars yesterday and Saturday, that it will equal a bigger close. You watch this weekend, if we could see everybody's number. Okay, so there's that part there. The second part is what Shelby talks about. When you step off into an area that you don't have expertise in, we did not have expertise in removing snow. We just didn't. We bought our snow shovels, no joke. They didn't come locally. We spent time calling every snow, not everyone, but the major snow removal people in Chicago,
In the north.
in Michigan, in New England, and asked them, what do you use? Do you use metal shovels? Do you use plastic shovels? Who do you use them from? Do you salt before? Do you salt after? What kind of snow? So what is the point in that? In business, if you're getting into an area that you don't have expertise, you reach out to some mentors. People will share. I'm talking about removing snow, and I cold called these people, and they told me.
Yeah.
They told me I wasn't competitors of there. That's what you do in business as a true entrepreneur is you find people better than you and learn from them. And it catapulted our ability there.
Oh, yeah.
I got to circle back around because I want to give a shout out. And you guys will resonate with this when I say it. I want to give a shout out to every truck with a trailer and a skid steer or a tractor behind it that I saw over the past 3 or 4 days that were not snow removal companies.
Yeah.
Because those were the hustlers out there.
They saw opportunity. They're a construction company, and they had a
Yes.
skid steer, and they said, I can do that.
They did. And then there's other people in construction that sat home working on their delays and the reduce of revenue. While the rear entrepreneur goes, okay, yeah, this over here I can't do, but I got the equipment and I can run that equipment.
I saw a guy, and we've done business with him, that drove to Wisconsin with a big flatbed trailer because he has some big land equipment, some big dirt removal equipment, and he got like 5 or 6 big boy. Now it's expensive, but big blades, big boxes, because it's just like tomato. It's like, okay, we can't be doing a whole lot of landscaping, can't do a whole lot of dirt work, but guess what? We're gonna have snow and people need that. It's kind of like a hustle I saw on social media. These guys rented a U-Haul truck, drove somewhere, and got bags and bags and bags, a whole U-Haul truck, probably way over the payload, of salt.
Oh, yeah.
And set up in a Home Depot
I love
parking
it.
lot selling salt. And Home Depot, Lowe's, like, you have to think they have to predict the amount of salt that they need.
Yeah.
But they don't need to be over, because what are they going to do with it? Sunscreen in the winter is not a great thing, right? So what happened is these guys were sitting in the parking lot. Lowe's probably didn't start out liking it, but then they needed a solution, and they were out of salt.
Yeah.
And they said, well, those guys out there in the parking lot are selling salt. And I'm like, genius. My kids are going up north next year, and they're going to sell bags of salt.
I want to root and roll down the window and holler when I see those guys because they're just real deal, get it done entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I have no capacity, no sympathy. I won't even listen to you if you start complaining to me about business and how the weather shuts you down.
Show me what you were doing on
I'm
this
like-
day.
Yeah.
Put on your pants and go to work.
Yeah.
Put on your pants and find the opportunity to go to work. And Shelby, I think let's go back to our 80 years. So at point in times that our inventory is low, or it's hard to get used vehicles, or there's back order of parts, one of the things our business does is we have multiple areas that we can shift to. No different than Dad saying, hey, we'll work on mowers if that's what we need to do. We will find a solution. We have the infrastructure to do it. And we'll lead our employees to opportunity and to show them that.
You know, and I'll have to tell you this because it is not all ice cream and rainbows. Yesterday we were going through training and said, hey, let's do this and this. And there was an employee, and this happens all the time, right? You don't want it to. But they said, you know, at some point in time, they're like, heck with this. Right? They don't have the skin in the game. Realize
they
that,
don't.
Right?
They don't.
And everyone was outside shoveling. There's plenty of places to say, no, we can't do that. And had this, and this. But this was just going over a software, and he's like, that's not my job. And nothing makes your blood boil. I don't care who you are than somebody that says that. I'm like, well, we've screwed up, and we didn't properly define that this is an all-hands-on-deck business of everyone's involved, everyone's providing a solution, and everyone's happy to help. You know, like, well, my job doesn't pay me for that. I was like, well, my job's never paid me $1 for clearing the snow and being here 8 hours before the rest of the team was. But I know that that's important for me, for my family, and most importantly, the team and the customers that show up. So it's like, oh, shoot. So it's just a reflection. Like, we're not going to judo chop that person, but it's like, okay, where did we mess up?
Yeah.
To not clearly say, hey, this is opportunity that I can still have you here, that you get the 8 to 10 hours today that you're able to punch in and to be able to provide. And your job's gonna look a little different, right? So if no one's knocking at your door saying, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this today because that's what you do, then you should probably find a solution to say, hey, we can offer this, right? Well, today we're a lemonade shop.
Yep.
Right? Because we lost our license for this, because of that, and it's a way. In 80 years, you're going to face plenty of those.
Do you know what helps in those situations where, you know, we didn't put on somebody's job description to clear the snow off the cars or to help with this or that? When you have a great culture and they see the finance manager coming out, they see the service manager coming out, or the guys from parts shoveling up front where it's not by the parts department, that creates a culture where the other people are sitting there going, oh, crud, I better go do something.
It does, and it covers 98% of people. The other 2% are on the toilet doom scrolling.
You gotta realize, too, whenever you do that, we ran across it yesterday, of it's okay to slow down just a second and say, hey, because some people, it doesn't matter if you're out there scraping it, doing bear crawls, pushing the thing across, and you're like, my hard work's going to get this. 80 years is what taught us to do this. That's why we do it every single time. There's people that'll still stare at you like,
They need direction.
why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And don't get aggravated at them. They can't help themselves.
They've never been taught or experienced it or been a part of it.
So walk in there and say, because you're aggravated, you get in the day, say, I went through this, I labored through all of this. You never ask them, because the minute you go and ask them, they're like, okay, yeah, I'll help, because they just have to be turned on that way.
Yeah. They would rather you not be open until the other side of the sword shows up, and it's Paycheck Friday, or it's
They're like, I didn't have any opportunity. You shut the store down.
And they will always, you'll be on this side of the ship, they'll be on that side of the ship, and you'll be on that side of the ship, and they'll run to this side of the ship.
Oh, yeah.
But it's best if you just communicate that, hey, here's our opportunity, here's what we want to do, here's what we can do to help you.
Yep.
And that, just like, that is, so right here, fun fact quiz, what percentage of business make it to 50 years? 25%, 10%, or 5%? Or D, less than 1%?
Ooh, just a 50 years. I probably would have said, I mean, we've studied this a lot, but I would have said, if I hadn't studied it, C.
Which would be 5%.
But I know that's not right.
The answer is D, less than 1%. So what if you're saying, golly, what you guys are saying is unorthodox, it's unsafe, like, you might be the Karen or whatever, right? I'm not calling you Karen. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it, and I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. But it's just like 1% of businesses, of all the businesses, will make it past 50%, and it's going to take that grind and that creative mentality every single day. Like, you can never put it on cruise control, and you can never say, I got it figured out.
Because they have to do the uncomfortable and hard things that people don't want to do, that's not fun to do.
I think that, so like, if this was a Q&A right now and somebody said, well, okay, y'all been in business for 80 years. How did y'all beat out 99% of everybody else? I'd say, well, the first thing, I hope you listen to the first part of the podcast. That entire time and I know we were talking about snow, but we were talking about being solution-based. What does solution-based mean? It means find an opportunity.
Yeah.
You cannot determine the cards you're going to be dealt. You only determine how you're going to react to them. And so you go, okay, this happened. The snow, the ice, the inventory went down, financing went away, blah, 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 blah. And it's, all right, here's what we're dealt with. What's our solution?
That is so important that you say that. And I'm glad that, people probably have already clicked off this, but if not, like dial in. The number one thing that you could do in life, and if you do a Benjamin Franklin close, the left side supports one side, the right side supports the other side. And if I could give you any advice, would say control the controllable. So you say, why do you guys plow snow? Because people always like, oh, that looks like so much fun. Do you have fun waking up early?
I told Taylor yesterday.
How are you doing yesterday?
I told yesterday. I had to get on the treadmill, one, because I needed to work out, but two, because I was in the skid steer. And you don't realize that after I'd been in that thing for 20 hours, it's so rigid, I felt like I had been in one of those paint shakers. My body was so discombobulated.
When I woke up this morning, I was sore, like, what the heck? So to answer your question, people are like, oh, that looks like so much fun. They're looking for a reason to lollygag.
Yeah.
And I won't get on that tangent, but it's not because it's fun, but it is controlling the controllable. So, like, why do you plow? We don't have to wait on a guy to show up.
Yep.
You don't have to wonder about the quality, because I'm going to be like, Matt, your blade's not touching the ground. Go adjust it or you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
You're like, Taylor, your salt's not spreading, or Shelby, your salt blew out in 3 minutes because I have the super spreader going.
You bought a nice one.
We can control that, right?
Salt.
So it's one of those things like, okay, can you control if it snows or not? Nope. Can you control if someone shows up or not to work? No, not really.
Yeah.
Right? Can you control if a customer shows up? There's some aspects.
Yeah.
So what you can control, you need to triple, quadruple, 5x, 10x down if you're going to make it past 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. Focus on those. That's why I say turn off the news.
Yeah.
Turn off the social media aspect of it, because you cannot control any of that.
Yep.
And you go to work at what you can control and what you can make a difference in.
The best out there in construction, I know I keep saying construction, but Northwest Arkansas is full of construction. The best I can say about construction is you have your crew there in the morning, ready to go, and the delivery doesn't come of materials.
Yeah.
You must, as an entrepreneur, already know, if that happens, what do I do?
What's next?
What do most people do? Complain about it, sit around, blah, 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 and then they send everybody home. Why not just have an alternative? Go, okay, let's switch over to this part of the project or this part of the project, or let's jump over to this other job where they do have the materials, and we'll all double up on that job today, and then we'll bring them back over and double up here to catch back up.
Yep.
So you just got to get thinking like that.
And that's such a rarity, because you're going to get so much like hate. Those workers can be like, and we get it constantly, be like, why didn't they have work lined up? And why didn't they have the materials figured out? And little do they know you work super hard to make sure the materials were here. And they're going to give you yada, yada, yada anyways. Mm-hmm. And you just like let that water off a duck's back. But say, hey, actually we're going to go to the Greenland project.
Yep.
And we're going to do a catch-up right there. And then you're going to work in the background to make sure the Fayetteville project has it. And then you say, hey, we're moving back over. And by the way, I stopped and got everybody drinks and everybody lunch.
Here we go.
And let's rock and roll. Here's an energy drink. And they're going to be like, golly, these people are so unorganized. But then when it comes to cash their check, there's going to be money in there, and they're going to be able to provide for their family. And Karen's going to be Karen.
And the rest of their buddies going to be like, well, yeah, my check was $1,500 short because of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Get around somebody that wants to be successful.
Yeah, somebody that wants to hustle, they're going to be like, oh, I got Thursday, Friday off. It's like, okay, good. Did they pay you for that? Like, nope.
You know what I was so proud about this year, and this is evolving. This is a testament to you, because obviously you're the one that likes to really be involved with everything. It was the easiest year of clearing snow. Yeah. And I think it was the most effective it's ever been. Is guess what we did? we've always talked about this. Yourself, no matter how hard us three work, we can work, start at midnight when it starts snowing.
Sure.
You keep plowing the ground, and the snow covers, and you're aggravated. I'm going to keep plowing. It's okay. And it doesn't work as good as whenever you implement in your team. Now, they're not at the same level that we are, but we created a policy that our whole team went out, and it was like clockwork. I'm like, okay, it's the best around the building it's ever been. Now, sure, we were having to walk around and say, hey, do this, do that.
You still
just
had to
put them in line.
Policy,
but
then you had to check expectations. And
You did. You had to manage it, just like your processes in your business.
It was
You got to
just
manage.
like, okay, putting all this together. All right, this was first year of having policy actually written, handed out to the managers in meetings. So that was a huge part of growth, of seeing, hey, we have all these good things, but remember, put them on paper so that you can share them with your team.
Couple things I want to get to, guys, before we run out of time here is, one, I want to get back into 80 years, but I want to talk about generations.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then don't go into this part until we get there, but just so the listeners will stay on, is then what do our ideas look like that for future?
Yeah.
So let's first talk about generations, because here's some secret sauce. Here's some secret sauce. We've talked about being solution-based, entrepreneur, figuring out opportunities, being a leader, communicating. But let's talk about generations, because 80 years doesn't happen in one generation. The majority of the reason, the why 99%, those 99%, they didn't all go out of business because of lack of capital.
No.
I would say, I don't know, 50% of them sold to somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know what that percentage is. And then the other 50% just, dissolved. But the 50% that sold to somebody else, why did they sell to somebody else? Well, the next generation either wasn't interested, or here's the bigger thing I want to talk about. The next generation came in there and did nothing with it. And unfortunately, especially if you're a type A personality, you've got to have some self-worth. You've got to have something, and I don't mean bank account. You've got to have something to look at to go, I built that. And you're not always just in your dad's shadow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or the founder's shadow. Like, hey, they got me to here. And, in our case scenario, we didn't have to start with a business from ground zero.
No.
But we started with a business that was at a level 4 or a level 5, and we've now moved that to a level 7. However you want to define that. You know what I mean? And you could do it by units or gross or employees. And I'll give an example here, and this is probably the easiest one for people to relate to. When we got back involved in the business, so after college, so in 2005, when I came back, and then Shelby and Taylor followed, our employee count at that point in time hovered between 110 and 115 employees. So that was our baseline.
Yep.
All right. And now we're 270. We'll be at 300 by the end of this year when our other two buildings open.
Yep.
So if you look at it just from that stat, now that's 20 years. That's 20 years. We could have just stayed at 110, 115 and said, hey, let's just maintain the business here. We could have more work-life balance. We could do this. And yeah, you could do that, but how much self-worth would you have to know, yeah, I'm just maintaining dad's business?
Yeah, and I guess it depends who you are, right? And, and that's why it's 99% that don't make it that far. And it has to be who you are. Like, you have to have that mentality. Otherwise, don't do it.
Well, it's who you are and where you came from. That what Matt's talking about stemmed from, I was talking to somebody, and they were talking about 3 businesses that were local, and we had seen the chain of multi-generation of grandfather owned it.
Yep.
Son got into it, and there were 3 that were pretty close together. And now we're 4th generation. They were 3rd generation. Looking around, he's like, why are none of their kids involved in their business? One of them sold. The other one is dwindling down, that he's not really doing a whole lot with it. And they said, but y'all are still involved. I said, well, it's a testament to Dad and the way that he taught us to go through this. But then as us brothers working together to want to do more, to not just, hey, I'm taking this and I'm going to keep it on cruise control like Matt's talking about. We have a vision of, we want it to go to X of what we've talked about.
It's one of those things of realizing that we've talked about this before, and we say 65, it's probably well more by now. But Lewis is within the Northwest Arkansas or Fayetteville region. there's 3 of us now.
Yeah.
That everyone had the opportunity to go through the 2-year program of figuring out what they like to do, what fits best. And it was important that everyone went through that wanted to be a part of it. So then you could have that, because every day you will need to wake up and do it again.
Yes.
And hustle again and find that next. Because here's the thing, when we grew from 110 to 270 employees, has revenue grown? Absolutely. Has expenses grown?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Even more than the revenue. Right? And so it's one of those things of what is your vision? And, you look at your forecast and you look at this year versus last year versus the past 5 years, and not all the numbers have green arrows next to them.
Oh, no.
Plenty of them have red arrows next to them. It's like, no, this is visionary for long-term growth, to be able to continue to build units in operation, to continue to look at generational, and to be able to build that tomorrow sustainability, and next month sustainability. And so looking at those things, it has to be a bigger vision, but it will never be on cruise control, no matter what programs or systems. We've been doing this operation of looking at all of our services that we pay for, and it's well over $150,000 per month of outside companies.
Yes.
That we're paying. You think of inventory tools and service write-up tools and customer communication tools, of all those things, and we have to every day reevaluate, is that the best company to help us with this?
Yep.
Is that a necessary expense?
Yep.
And every single day to last 80 years, and then what does the future look like? Because it is wild.
You're talking about those green arrows, and it got my mind thinking, we look at weekly reports, and if you just take 20 years, let's call it 20 years we've been back in the store, and each week we look at the report of green arrows. That's 1,040 reports we've looked at. I can tell you, it's less than I can count on one hand. So that's less than 5 times when all the arrows have been green.
Oh, yeah.
There's why am I saying that? Because there's always an area of opportunity. And if you don't take the time to look at it, the growth doesn't happen. So if you're listening right now, and I hope we still have people listening, if you're listening right now and you're at that retirement age and you know that you have got your kids that are in it, and you're like, I want it to be able to last. That's why you're passing it down, letting them buy in whatever versus going to the market. The best thing you could do is sit down and challenge that next generation of, where do you see your vision of this company going? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to grow it to? What new sectors do you want to get into? Yeah. And how can I help you do that? Because if you don't give them something that they can point onto the wall or the building or the success, and they can't put their stamp on it, they'll lose their fire.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's so important. There was a couple things that have to unpack of realizing, one, some people exit and sell the business because they feel like, hey, the market's high, I'm ready to retire, I got junior, or these people that want to come into it. But I've worked hard, and my business is worth money, and I want to sell it.
Sure.
Well, let me tell you this, newsflash, with a red ticker underneath. No one in this family has ever been given this business.
No.
We had to buy this business.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you are an entrepreneur and you're wanting your next generation to have it, it's okay to charge them the money for it.
Yeah. Sure.
Make it fair. And give them an opportunity to buy into it. But you don't have to throw your business evaluation out the window and say, here you go, Junior. That could be the worst thing that you ever could do, because they will have no buy-in.
And you're selling yourself short.
And you just took all that you've built and said, here you go, Junior. And hopefully you built retirement at another angle, because you just threw away that.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe that's why a lot of people sell, because they're like, no, I built a $10 million company, $20 million company, $500,000 company, $100 million company. I want my $100 million paycheck.
Yeah.
And so you can have both, right? And just realize that. And it is so important to have that conversation you talked about. And that starts as a young conversation at a coloring book level. right? And you hope that they all want to be into it, but you don't want to force anyone into it, but just realizing that have that conversation, show them what it looks like, allow them to plug into all the areas to see what they like, and then continue to have that working conversation so you can see, hey, this is going to be a good fit. This is where this person's good at. And so you're not just, hey, here you go, here's the keys to the castle, hope the best for you, call me if you have any questions, but don't really because I'm retired. Like, please don't do that because you'll be part of the 99%. Just say we did hand it over, it imploded, and then some people come back and fix it.
Yep.
And some people say, well, we tried.
If you don't do what you're talking about on the buy-sell, on the accountability, and on the vision casting, what will happen is frustration and animosity within your family.
Either from the buyer or seller or the people around.
And then within the family, then it ends up breaking up the family.
Yeah.
Which is even worse, just because you didn't want to have that conversation or you didn't want to charge the next generation for buying into the business. What ends up happening is it divides your family.
Yeah.
Because of animosity and this and that. It's kind of, you guys have heard us talk about this before, but Shelby hit you with a news flash of nobody's ever been given the business. The same thing as we don't have anybody on the payroll that doesn't work in the business. And it's not because we're not giving people. It's not because we don't care about people. It's because we've lasted 80 years. and if you're going to last 80 years, you got to do things other people don't do.
Yes.
You know? So.
Yeah, it's just one of those things.
Structured.
It's not always easy and it's not always fun. And it's not always doesn't feel like it's worth it, but in the end it is, right? If you've got that willingness to get up and grind and look for the next opportunity, the next area of growth, because you'd be like, we're good today. And it's like, whoa, hang on. There's a hole in the boat over there. I got to fix that. Or, hey, here's a big opportunity. What if we put a sail and a motor on the boat?
Yep.
You know, it's like, hey, what if we, when we take the boat out, we Teflon coated the bottom?
Sure.
Or just all these things that you think of as a leader that you're like, ooh, opportunity. Ooh, opportunity. What if we got a second salt spreader?
That's right.
What if we got a new plow instead of using the old plow? What if we pre-treated it before it came down?
Yep.
Or what if we moved all the cars and so you weren't super aggravated about all the cars? Just thinking of these things as a leader, because there's a whole lot that you can prevent and predict if you just will think future speaking.
And if you'll already have a plan B and a plan C and all of them don't say refer to plan A, you know what I mean? I hear those people.
Yeah.
Like if you already have that, I love studying quarterbacks, not because I'm a football nut, but there's such an entrepreneur in the quarterback that they're not rattled when they get up there and they called the play in the huddle and the defense shifts, you know, they're not rattled. They call the audible.
Well, think about this in the college national championship. Like, you call the play and you control what you can control.
Yeah.
Right? That you can control what everyone in the offense is doing. You cannot control what the defense is doing or what the timer's doing or what the stadium is doing, right? And so then the quarterback has this game play, but the Indiana quarterback says, hey, here's the game plan. No receivers are open, tight end not open, running back already went. And he says, if it is to be, it's up to me, and hammers down and busts a tackle and cracks a guy and dives and just gets smacked because he's like, if it is to be, it's up to me. At this point, my plan B or C is get in the end zone.
I'm going to hit one other football analogy here because everybody needs to hear this. If you're not the quarterback and you're on defense, you're like, well, what do I do then? I listened to Ray Lewis talk about this the other day, and he said the toughest team for him to play against, the quarterback that would disrupt his defense the most, was Peyton Manning with the Colts. He said, so I couldn't change how well he read a defense and calling the correct audible play to disrupt it and make positive yardage. He goes, but what I could change is to delay and wait to tell my defense on what formation to get into. He goes, I would wait till the last 7 seconds so he didn't have time to call an audible.
Yep.
I just love that. I mean, that's just like, okay, here's the cards I'm dealt with. How do I figure that out?
Oh, yeah.
It's everywhere. All right, Mythbuster. Long-lasting companies succeed because they don't change. That's crap.
They last because they do adapt. Right? It's not like, hey, we do this because we always have. Like, that could be the silliest thing ever. Like, no, this is how we do it. Like, okay, well, what if we did it this way?
Yeah. They're always adapting. They're always involved in the middle of it there. I got a question for y'all to both think about of moving forward there. But what is the biggest leadership lesson you've learned from being a part of an 80-year business? And what does it kind of look forward for future-wise?
To me, it looks like you got a great foundation and you've got great resources, but it's a challenge of what's next. What areas of opportunities? And I'm going to give you an example there. And there's a lot of examples, but I want to talk about future, like right now, what we're in. We've got a lot of people we sell and we service cars to. Okay, so two buildings we're working on, and one of the buildings we're working on is our reconditioning building. And we look at what was our total RO count. It got in the 30,000s this past year. Said how many people of those 30,000 would pay to have their car detailed?
Well, if you surveyed them and asked them how many car wash subscription, you'd be well over 60%.
Well over 60%. So, but we didn't have the capacity to do that. And we currently recon, we call it, or detail, about 250 to 300. We're building a facility where we can real deal detail, and we think we can do 1,000 plus a month.
Yeah. And that'll allow us to be able to do the service customers. Currently, right now, we can only do our used inventory.
That's all. We can't say yes to you right now if you come in and ask us to detail. The second opportunity is we sell a bunch of trucks. The average truck owner, and I hadn't looked at stats in the past couple of years, but I know this at least to be true, and y'all might have a better number. The average truck owner spends a minimum of $1,500 to $2,000 in accessory after they buy their truck.
That's at least.
And why that's important is because we're in truck country.
We are.
The number one selling vehicle in the United States is a truck, and it happens to be an F-150.
Yep.
And so everyone drives trucks. Not everyone, but majority of people drive trucks, and they spend $1,500 to $2,000 in accessories per truck.
So knowing that, that's an opportunity.
Yep.
They already know us, like us, and trust us. We're in the middle of building an entire accessory facility where we can capture that. We're not trying to do SEMA builds, but where we can capture that for our customer. So even with an 80-year-old business, those are two additional opportunities that we feel like we can capture the market on.
You just have to think about that as your angle of business. If you build pools, couldn't you also work on pools, like to close and open pools? And couldn't you also, because this is a tricky thing, like do I have to have a storefront or not? No is the answer. But couldn't you also sell the chemicals?
Yep.
Because they already know you, like you, and trust you because you built their pool. Like, hey, well, how should I open and close this? Actually, I offer that.
I'll do it for
you.
I
can do that for you. Let me go ahead and set you up on a yearly. Let me go ahead and set you up on a subscription-based service. Well, where do I get the chemicals? Because say, well, you need to add pH. You need to add, actually, we sell chemicals.
Yep.
And we actually have a monthly, based on the size of your pool, a monthly subscription where we can just drop these off at your house.
Yep.
Would that work good for you?
Yep.
And they're like, well, I've been thinking about getting a hot tub. Actually, we offer those. And so you find your bandwidth and your limit, but there are businesses within your businesses that will help you grow.
Do you know what helps you identify those? Is you get around like-minded people. They don't have to be the same industry. And your mind just starts thinking. It just starts thinking of, oh, man, I've been in the middle of the forest, absolutely killing it, trying to make my business work, and I didn't even think about those add-on services.
That's the theory of the hardware store. You go in the hardware store, and they're like, I think hardware stores have been really good and adaptable, the ones that are still around, to say, what else could we sell that people might need? Right? That's why I love it, because it's the most random.
I know. You get a grill. You can go get a 5/8 bolt.
Super
get a hammock.
glue. Get a hammock. Get the latest and greatest Yeti cup. Get a shotgun.
And hopefully a Mother's Day card.
Oh, no doubt you're going to get the card. Then you're going to get you something to drink. And then I always needed a closet rod. That one's been broken for a while. It's just the most random. And then let me drop my weed eater off to be tuned up. It's just like, that was a business within a business. So when it's snowing, they got the salt and they got the shovels. And when so I love that.
They got it all.
My biggest leadership lesson, or one of them, there's a bunch, is just because it worked yesterday or just because it was relevant yesterday doesn't mean it will work today or is relevant today. I think you have to constantly do a temperature test. like just because you've cooked a steak so many times, you generally know how long it takes. You still either need to test it with a temperature probe or cut it open to see, because was the steak a little bit smaller? Were there more steaks on the grill? So just because it worked, whatever it is, a theory or how you handle a customer or a software of $150,000 in software expenses per month, is it still relevant and does it still work today? Yeah. Right? That's one of those things you have to constantly be looking at. And it can't be there's a couple people in our business who are like, well, that's how Stone did it. It's like, that was 33 years ago. Like, what?
Who told you that?
My bad. Let's reevaluate that quickly, right? Because we are not doing it because that's how we've always done it. We're doing it because it's best for our customers, best for our employees, most efficient and most cost effective.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah.
There's a lot of people in your industry, maybe in your business, that are doing it just because that's how they've always done it.
But that starts at the top, and that starts with you because you're humble enough, and the ego is at the door. And just because this process or this software got me to where I am today doesn't mean it's going to get me to where I need to go in the future.
It's one of those things when we all have kids, and those kids say, "Why? Just be careful that it's not always just because I said so, right? And that's generally the theory. It's just like, hold on. But then you have to stop and evaluate that. Like if you're not teaching your kids, who are you going to let teach your kids?
Exactly.
Right?
You're going to get off on a whole different point.
Yeah, you just have to think about that. But just like, instead of saying just because I said so, break it down and say, hey, that's a great idea. Let's schedule something this afternoon and walk through why we do this way, and is there a better way?
What's yours?
My best has to be a combination of both of those, but I really like just evolving and realizing there is a whole lot of culture that's been poured into our business, but there's always different ways to be able to teach that into our next generation of people who are coming. I always love studying and looking at, hey, how can we, where you hear everybody nowadays that says that younger generation is very hard to teach. They're very hard to coach up and everything else. I look at it, I'm like, there's opportunity there. Let's figure out how we make that tick. So evolving in the way that we teach, really seeing opportunity there.
Yeah.
So been really good today. Really dove into continuing. You'll continue hearing about our 80-year history, what we've learned, what we would change, what we're still changing, and all the fun things that come into that. Always check us out at lewissuperstore.com and crossroadsconversationpodcast.com for up to 74 episodes so far. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure and give it a like, share it with your friends and family, and visit our website to send us questions about what you would like to know about the automotive industry or family business in general. Who do you want to hear from? Send them our way, and we'll do our best to answer any questions that you have. Thank you again, and we'll see you in future shows.